This is exciting. Mark, I've actually got an excuse or a reason for you to go take a big international trip.
I'm in.
Okay. Now, there was a recent study that was highlighted in an article in the Harvard Business Journal that was done by some Dutch scientists that said that workers who went on a 2 to 3 week vacation, an international holiday, came back and they were able to generate more diverse ideas of different ways to use everyday objects. So going on this vacation, they came back and they were actually able to, or potentially able to be contribute more at work.
That makes a lot of sense, and it actually reminds me of a study that I recently came across from Singapore, I believe, that found that folks who deliberately seek out music from other cultures, food from other cultures, international relationships and friendships from other cultures and countries have a higher degree or higher propensity for creative problem solving and creative thinking, which I think is really kind of cool and resonates with your study, which is really the outcome that we're here to talk about today: creativity and innovation and creative problem solving and collaboration. Now, I know you've talked a lot before about big collaboration mindset. So for the folks who didn't tune in the first time through that conversation, or maybe you just want a refresher, remind us, what is the big collaboration mindset and how does that relate to the funnel of innovation?
Yeah, the big collaboration is a mindset that every individual in an organization has the potential to bring valuable input to the organization. So we call it big collaboration because it's like big data in that you're pulling information from here and there from people all over the place like you would from different data sources, and you're bringing it together for a collective value, right? So in order to do that, big collaboration must have all of these individuals understand the core strategy, mission, and values. They must also understand as much as they can about the workings or the operations of the business, and also the business outcomes, and not only understand them but also follow them. So those are the three main things that they need to understand about the business. But then outside of that, the organization should encourage individuals to understand more about their individual profession or industry that they're in. It should encourage them to understand adjacent industries or just even any other profession or industry and how it might relate, or learnings could come from that for their own. And lastly, and this is the one I really love, it should encourage them to go out and let themselves be impressed.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite.
Go out and take a 4-week trip to Thailand, because I love Thai food and people, and let yourself be impressed and come back and contribute better. So that feeds the innovation funnel.
Yeah, very cool. And the last one's my favorite: allow yourself to be impressed. So as you survey the landscape of organizations, small, medium, and large, across all types of industries and sectors, are there specific signals that you might find in an organization that says, hey, I'm going to benefit a lot from the big collaboration mindset?
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how often you might see some of these things. There are two main things that I would look for. The first is if you go into a business or an organization and you see multiple areas in the business that serve the same function. So, that's a pretty good indicator there's not really good cross-organizational communication and interaction. The second one I would say that's really important is if you go in, or if you are in your own organization, you look around and say, we're doing a lot that's not core to what we're good at.
Oh, sure.
Or that's not core to our mission and values. That's probably another good indication that you could benefit from it. I like to think pretty much every organization can benefit from big collaboration, but those are two that I think are really good.
Yeah, very cool.
Now, since you head up innovation for us, do you have an impression of different benefits for organizations using big collaboration?
That's a good question. I mean, we could sit here and talk about that all day long because I'm really passionate about innovation. I think to answer your question, there's a couple of areas. Innovation is critical for organizations of all types to survive and succeed and remain relevant. But that innovation begins really at the individual talent, individual person level. And so you've got to encourage your best talent throughout your entire organization at all levels to collaborate across functions, across departments, explore new ideas and be creative with each other, because that starts to develop a little bit of a creative tension between people, and that creative tension, I think, spurs more creativity and more innovation and more creative problem solving. And so I think it's critical for the culture of an organization as well as for the bottom line of an organization, because that creativity ultimately manifests itself as new products or new services or new business models or just new ways of serving customers and new ways of providing value to the market. And so that it's a funnel in the sense that it starts with all the stuff that you mentioned, cycles through the middle with all that cross collaboration going on, and then out pops at the other end something that's really meaningful and valuable for a customer.
So this is really interesting because this is why we're on the couch talking today. It's you and I.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day about how that innovation funnel works and how are organizations supposed to start there? Can you just say, hey, ready, go, innovate, or what's your opinion there?
So you can, but it probably won't work too well to just say go, ready, innovate. A lot of companies have tried that, and it tends to flop over pretty quickly. And the reason that it flops over is because there's no like focused area to put your people's brains into to start collaborating and to start innovating. The best way to really get started with it is to find a big problem to solve or a big opportunity to address and get your people to focus on that and innovate there and be creative there and collaborate there to solve whatever it is that you're trying to solve. That tends to go much, much better, have a lot better participation and motivation, and outcomes tend to be a lot better as opposed to just saying go innovate.
It reminds me of our own internal idea quest. I think there were 30 or 40. How many participants have we had there?
So almost 50 actually.
Wow.
So the Idea Quest is an internal staff-only association-wide contest, innovation tournament is what we call it. And basically the idea here is let's get the best ideas from all of our people at all levels of the organization, because our staff, our talent, has a tremendous perspective on the membership and the profession. And so the way we run Idea Quest is we put out a challenge, a very specific focused kind of opportunity area that we want our colleagues to think about and marinate on and pose ideas on. And then they put that in there, a month and a half or 2 month kind of time frame for folks to come up with ideas, and then we screen them and vet them, and ultimately pick a couple winners to fund and execute. So it's a tremendous amount of fun.
And as a matter of fact, the woman behind the camera, our Facebook Live guru, is one of the participants, right?
Yes.
And I think she told us about 3 different times pitched as we got started today, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, she's put a few hooks in for her ideas. So we're in the midst of the Idea Quest right now. But it's a really great example of that cross-collaboration and ultimately fostering and nurturing the creativity and innovation that's so important, not just for us as an association, but for any kind of business or any kind of company out there.
So, great.
We don't have a whole lot of time today, Bret, but you and I have been talking about this big collaboration mindset for a long time. We could spend probably the rest of the day sitting here chatting about it, which would be fun.
Yeah.
But we've only got limited time with our folks here who are listening and watching. Let's try to leave folks maybe with 3 things that they can put into action right now at their organization with the collaboration mindset.
Yeah, so if I'm sticking to three things, the first would be to really make sure that you're communicating well the strategy, the mission, the values of the organization. Yeah. And I know we did something internally here recently where we communicated the strategy to everyone. And I actually today had somebody on my team come up to me and tell me that she thought it was really awesome, that she felt really valued by that. And that made me feel really good. I'm going to share that with Kevin and those guys later. So that's one. The second one is to encourage that cross-organizational interaction, right? So people can get into little groups and not actually interact with others. So I would say, whether it's social or if it's making sure that you have cross-organizational working groups, or even if you have the ability to do some sort of work rotation, that's a really valuable thing to do.
A cool idea too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the last one I'm going to leave with, and because it kind of started with it, is and it's really important to big collaboration, is telling your people that you want them to go out and let themselves be impressed by something. So encourage that. Try and work that into even some regular meetings. Bring things in that have nothing to do with what you're meeting about.
That's critical. That's awesome. That's my favorite one, the last one. So this was fun, Bret. I enjoyed chatting with you, and thanks folks for listening and watching on the Big Collaboration Mindset. Stay tuned for future Human Intelligence series.